I think anytime that we see Laguna Seca pop in the daily races any week, there's only one thing that we think about: survive. So if you tell me that you really love Laguna Seca as a daily race, I just don't believe you. I really don't. I'm sorry. Nothing that I can do. I just can't. Anyway, I did a couple races out there in Laguna Seca, and yeah, they were interesting. Let's go to the track and check how they went. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Kizzy here with another video of daily races. Week 37 brings us daily race C at Laguna Seca with Group 4 cars. And in this case, we're going to use the Renault Megane Trophy, which is pretty much the meta car for this week. As you find in the leaderboards, most of the top times are going to be in this car. So let's talk a little bit about the strategy for this race. You have 13 laps on both hard and soft tire compounds. You have to use both of them, so that includes obviously a mandatory pit stop. And because they're not consecutive compounds, the grip difference is going to be significant, to say the least. So you really have to be very comfortable with driving on the hard tire, and as soon as you change into the soft tire or vice versa, the way how you drive the cars is going to be very different. So let's start with lap 1 right here, coming out of the first sector, and you're going to see this little incident happening ahead where this car is going to get pushed out of the track and he's going to have to use another car to meet the apex. And unfortunately for the guy that we just passed, who I couldn't even read the name, he's pretty much already going to have his race ruined. So now we're here with Hargy into the corkscrew for the first time. I'm going to make sure not to hit him, and we're going to have a few comments about whoever made that incident a few seconds ago. In the end, we end up going past Hargy in the downhill section after the corkscrew, so that's another position that we climb. As far as I started from the back, and whoops, we're gonna have a little bit of a dive bomb right here from Hargy trying to retain his position. We're gonna try to evade whatever hit and contact was happening here, and we see Mud Up S1K serving a penalty, which presumably was from the incident that we just saw earlier ago. So we're gonna fight here in turn 1 a little bit, but I'm gonna have the inside line and I'm gonna be able to recoup P11 now. So we're moving up the hill, we're moving up the scale in the start of lap 2. So my goal right now is just to try to catch up with the pack ahead of 4 cars. But oh wait a second, Mud already has a boost of speed, trying to make the outside line on this corner, and he's actually going to be able to pull it off. And at that point I was pretty surprised. I did not know exactly how he managed to build up that speed, but doesn't matter, we keep going, we try to move past. And here we have Arkeys, which is actually a subscriber of the channel. Thank you very much for your subscribe and your support, Arkeys. We're gonna make the move past him, and now we're gonna try to finish lap 2. And Hargy, once again, it's gonna get pushed into this corner, which is very tight. And my face, the fact that I even survived that situation, I was already pretty happy about that. So we keep moving, start of lap 3 now. And we're gonna go into the corkscrew once again. I can see the pack ahead, and I'm just trying to stay as close as I can with my hard stint right now. 4 cars ahead, so that's a lot of positions that I can get and pretty much put myself in around P7. And there's gonna be a little wiggle coming out of the downhill, and there's also a slow car, which is 737 Stig, as you will be able to see. And here's what happened to him. So they're coming down the corkscrew, a little line in the inside line next to him, and when he's trying to go downhill, the ping pong effect is going to put him in the sand for the first time in this race for him. So he's going to go all the way down to P6, unfortunately, and he's not going to be too happy about it. In fact, he was actually quite chatty with which racer PNW, and as you just saw right there, someone tried to rejoin the track after leaving it off the track limits, and I just tried to keep my racing line, and I think he didn't spot the fact that I was coming through that section, and that contact ended up spinning him. And now we have Rana Gyar making a little samba drift up to the corkscrew for the 4th time, but he's not going to have enough speed to defend that position, so I'm going to make advantage of P9 now. So race so far going in our favor. We're just trying to be pretty consistent, trying to survive the track. A lap later, I decide to pit because I noticed that the two guys ahead did not. And Mud Up effectively was on soft tires, which explains why he had such lots of grip doing the outside move on a couple laps ago. So after that point, I knew that I would catch up with him fairly quickly, which you can see right now in lap 7, going down the downhill once again, excuse me, and he's gonna be a little reactive trying to defend this corner right here. I'm not gonna appreciate that very much, so I still try to make the move on the outside, but this is gonna be a tricky one, so I'm not gonna be able to get it, but at least I'm close enough to try to make a move at the start of lap 8 at turn 1. So I put the dummy as if I'm going to the outside line, and once I see that he's committed to the outside line, we make the switch, take the inside, and now we make the move on turn 1 effective, and we push on to P10 currently, as we have 737 Stig right in front of us and Mike in P8 as well. So this is looking promising so far in lap 8. We just need to keep the pace, and we know that at some point we'll be able to take some more positions. So at this point, I'm right close to 737 Stig, a little bit of wiggles coming out of this corner. Now here's the difference with the Suzuki Swift though. That car has a lot of straight line speed, so even if I tried to take the inside line in here, I wasn't gonna get anywhere. And right now my priority is try to keep this corner as clean as possible, because there's someone else coming out of the pits, React Coder to be exact, and we want to be able to take that position. So now, lap 9, we found ourselves in P7. A little bit of ping pong is going to happen right here when Mike actually brakes a little too early, and that puts 737 Stig in my front bumper, but it actually gives him a little bit of boost to take that position away from Mike. So in the end, it ended up working out for him. And now it's my time to try to catch up with Mike and see if I can take that position as well and climb up to P6. Finishing lap 9. Here we find ourselves once again in the downhill. React Coder is also with the pace up and trying to catch up to us 3. And now here's the hard braking point in the last corner of the lap, trying to take the best exit possible, see if I can get a run to meet these two drivers in turn 1. That's not going to happen. But now, lap 10, Twitch Racer PNW is going to go into the sand and have a little bit of a twist and flip. And the guy that ended up causing a couple incidents, apparently, by the virtue of some people commenting about them, he's now completely in the dust. No pun intended. So here we are putting the best Sector 2 at this point, or at least up a lap up to Sector 2 as the best lap of the race. Unfortunately, I wasn't going to be able to get that best lap or the fastest lap in the race at that point, but now we find ourselves in P11, and we're going to go once again uphill, about to go into the corkscrew. We're going to have a little run, and React Coder is actually going to push us a little bit to take the position away from Mike, and right before hitting the corkscrew, I climb another position, and now I'm in the top 5. So things were looking very good up to this point. I started P14 and being top 5 by this point in the race. Couldn't be more pleased with that. So now, 737 Stig ahead of us. Still chance to try to get into a P4. Maybe that would be more than a good result, to be fair. So now I'm just trying to pull away from the guys behind, and I was even surprised how I was able to keep that P5 over there with everything happening at that point. So let's go to the final lap of this race. 737 Stig ahead of us. I'm trying to get the slipstream. I'm trying to pull a clean lap. And I don't know if you guys saw my lap guide, but I should be braking around this point right here. Unfortunately, I forgot. And I ended up braking at this point. So you guys know what's going to happen next, right? Yeah, unfortunate contact with 737 Stig, and a well-deserved 2-second penalty is going to completely put me away of any possibility of trying to get P4. So I'm just going to keep going at this point, finish the lap, still in P5, but I have to serve my 2-second penalty. 2 guys behind me are going to take advantage of that. and we end up the race in P7. That was the first race of the evening, so I thought there's some potential in here. Let me try doing it again. So let's jump into race 2 in a few seconds now, and pretty much the same people are going to be in this race. Few names that you're going to spot that are quite new, and here we're going to start their second race of the evening, and MC Yabel is not going to have the greatest of starts, and this is one of the inefficiencies of this combo. The fact that if you start somewhere in the bottom half of the grid, you are going to have to take that last corner of the lap as part of your starting position. And here's Twitch Racer PNW once again owning to the reputation that he earned in race 1 by knocking this guy out fully off the track, and we are going to take advantage of those 2 positions, moving up the grid once again. And now I want you to pay attention to this subject right in front of us by the name of Checho in P9. And as you can see, he's trying very, very hard to put his nose in the apex on the inside line against the Brazilian driver right in front of him. And his driving is going to be quite erratic, to say the least. And you see React Coder that we had in the previous race. I actually enjoyed racing with React Coder in that race. And here we have Checho once again taking a very defensive line. It's only lap 2. And he's already defending quite a lot. And React Coder is going to spot that, make the switcheroo, and take that position away from him. So now we have the job of trying to go past Checho. So how are we going to be able to engineer a move to do that? Let's see if we can pull it on the downhill section. We're going to try to look for that inside line. He's going to completely shut that down. So now we're going to try to get a good run, see if we can actually put ourselves in this corner, but that's not going to happen. Unfortunately for him, though, completely braking late and knocking React Coder out of the track and earning himself a 4-second penalty. At this point, I was laughing because I knew that Checho wasn't going to be an issue anymore. However, little did I know that I was going to cause my own demise. Nope. First by trying to go into this corner, and I felt that he actually reacted to the move, knowing that he left the gap open. So I tried to go for it. I didn't feel like I had to give the position back. So I kept going. He tapped me on this corner, and I'll just let you guys know what happens next. Yeah, what else could I say? I guess I brought that on myself in a sense, because for one, knowing that he had a 4-second penalty, I could have just kept going or given the position back knowing that I was going to get it before. As I said though, I felt that he was a little bit reactive with his braking. He actually moved under braking, so I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong, but he decided otherwise, and he wanted to take justice into his own hands by knocking me out and effectively putting him on the sand as well, but he had still a good run though. Anyway, jumping into lap 5, let's catch up again with Checho. And by the way, if you want to roast me in the comments for that particular situation, feel free to do so. If you felt that my move was a little bit too aggressive, let me know in the comments below. Or if you felt like I had the right to actually go through that apex and he did move under braking, you're more than free to comment below and let me know your thoughts. We are catching up to Checho, and he's actually going to go into the pit lane by surfing into the sand pretty much at the end of lap 5. So I decided that I was going to stay out for the overcut with him, and I was going to go pit a lap later. So we're starting lap 6, bringing the car down into the pit lane at the end of lap 6, putting the soft tires on, and see if we can rescue something out of this race. So once again, Checho right in front of us, less than half a second pretty much to catch up with him, taking this left-hander all the way up into the BP bridge, going into this little kink, which is one of the corners that I definitely hate the most about this track, but in this time we hit it properly, and then Checho is going to be nice.
Thank you very much, that's really nice.
And he's going to let us through, actually. I don't know if it was because he thought that he actually overreacted to knocking me out a few laps ago, or he just didn't want me to battle him too much because he probably would have felt that I was a little faster than him. But yeah, nice move from him in the end. So we keep going. We have now the Brazilian
Ruana Guiar about to almost spin and snap oversteer at the exit of this corner. So now my focus was just to try to make the undercut against other drivers in front pay off. So we are going to have the move right here on the Brazilian driver. Very effective once again. Turn 1 move. Can't fail with that one. So we're going to put ourselves back into P11. Racer P&W right in front of us to catch. And at this point, this situation is going to unfold right in front of us where Disco King is going to go for a little disco in the sand, putting himself all the way up into the tire wall. And that's another position that we get. So P10 now, things are looking up a little bit after the horrific start. And now we're finding ourselves in lap 12. And we have Racer P&W once again and MC Yavel, who actually had quite the rough start as well, as you remember, but in P8 very comfortably. Looking for the inside move in this corner against Racer P&W. He's going to shut that door down, but we have the little switcheroo exit, and we put ourselves side by side with him. And MC Yavel is actually going to decide to give me the slipstream for this one. So that way I have enough of a run to once again make the move in turn 1. So very nice of MC Yavel to give me the slipstream. I don't know if he thought about something strategic by this point. However, he must have known that I was going to try and make the move on him later in the final lap, which I'm going to try to do very bravely at the exit of the corkscrew from the outside line. Little contact actually ends up putting me a little bit far away from the apex that I wanted to. So I don't think that was anything wrong with that. I think it was just hard racing and if anything, just a racing incident. No one really spun out of that move. So in the end, Yavel defends his position in P8, and we are gonna finish our second race in P9. Not the best of results, but considering how we were completely obliterated at the start of the race, I think that's a good silver lining to have. So I decided to go with one more because I felt that couldn't be the way that I finished the races this day. So once again, race number 3, here we go. Pretty much the same roster, a couple new names, nothing extreme. So first thing that is gonna happen, Herman Rospide is gonna go once again into this little sand pit, which a lot of people actually have met this week, and let me know if you've been one of those. I certainly have. So don't be ashamed of sharing your experience with the sand pit right there at the exit of that left kink. So lap 2, we're gonna try to follow this line and this pack of cars. Slower Titian actually leaves the gap open, and I wasn't even thinking of pulling this move. To be fair though, he did end up defending it quite well on the outside, so he keeps P11, but I'm still at reach of the pack ahead. So now I see someone going off the track, and that's going to be Mike from a couple races ago, unfortunately having a little bit of a slip out of the track limits. Now I'm going to try to put the pressure on Slower Titian, almost effective because he almost leaves the track. Couple drivers right in front as well, going a little wide, and here's going to be a tight pack going into the corkscrew at the middle of lap 2. And now we're going to go on the downhill section. Could I get a few positions out of this situation? Let's see. Trying to look in between these two guys. Arky's on the right, Slower Titian on the left, little contact right here, push and bump right here, and
they ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
yeah, sad times. I was the one that ended up in the sand, unfortunately, for this one. Let's see the replay of that situation for this case from the perspective of MC Yavel. So he's looking at the three of us just bumping, and he really didn't react enough, and nothing that he could do to try to evade contact with me on my left rear bumper. And he already had enough by himself, as you could see, getting knocked into the sand as well from the aftermath of that chaotic situation. So fast forward to lap 5, Slower Titian had another incident that we didn't put in here, but that's gonna allow me to go back into P13 once again. So I'm just trying to pull some type of pace. And after the incident, and this is not the way how you put pace, guys, not at all. If you want to put pace, the first thing that you need to do is stay away from the sand, which I clearly didn't do at the start of lap 5. However, we're finishing that lap, and we're seeing a couple people in the pits, and by this point, I'm just below 4 seconds behind of MC Yavel, so something's looking up, considering the fact that we had the incident, and there's still quite a bit of pace that I can unlock for this race. So here we have a couple other drivers into the pits as well. By this point, I had already pitted, if you might have noticed. So I already had my soft tires on, which I put at the end of lap 6. So undercut was in play. And now Arkis is about to leave the pit lane. And we are not going to be able to get in front of him, but at least we put him at reach, which is probably going to introduce us to a little bit of slipstream and potentially P13 once again. So now a multiple number of drivers in the pit lane exiting out of here. So by lap 9, the undercut was paying off, and we were gaining positions in and out of this race. So now we're going to be able to put ourselves almost in P11, and by this point, this driver right here is going to end up getting a bit of a forced 360 between the sand and the track, and that's gonna ignite the yellow flags that you see in my screen. So this is gonna put another position up to my reach, which was looking promising at the end of lap 9. As you can notice right here, pack of 3 right in front, and P8 in the cards almost at this point. Little love tap with Arkis trying to switch to the outside line to avoid the chaos. He's actually gonna appreciate that as a little bump draft, which I'm gonna respond to my hazards being lit up. So nothing major, nothing malicious, so we keep going. I'm trying to keep the inside line right here, not with the purpose of making a move, but mostly with the purpose of not hitting Arkis once again, because this race was already scrappy enough, and enough hits were given, and you're gonna see a couple more beasts. And the pack is starting to bunch up still, and there's gonna be more to come in this little section where you have Nando defending this left-hander and JL Alpha trying to make the move on the outside. It's not gonna work. I'm gonna get hit back and forth, and I'm gonna pause it just right here, because this is something that you don't want to do, guys. Do not ever go 3 wide into this left kink, because this happens. Yeah, exactly. Just that happens. It's complete mess, complete chaos, and I end up capitalizing out of those 3 positions and moving into P8. So things were looking very good by the back end of the 3rd race that I was doing this evening. So it's now time to just put some flow in, bring it home. And here's going to be another incident with Killer Tofu that was in P4, trying to put a little too much power at the exit of the last corner. So he's going to see the barrier right in front of him. Yellow flags are going to pop up in my screen, and that's going to be because of him going for a spin, which we're going to capitalize to move another position up into P7. And that was pretty much it for this 3rd race. Nothing else much of action happening around, but I think these 3 races effectively summarize what Laguna Seca is really about. It's just about chaos and disaster and destruction and sand, lots of sand, and people just biting the dust all the time. And yeah, it's just one of those that the main priority really is to survive. And I guess that's what we did at the end, securing the P7. So guys, if you really enjoy those races, make sure to check my latest lap guide right here, or my latest races as well.